proud to be here. I'm also so nervous. Thank you, Dami, for arranging this. And thank you, Tom, for the inspiration.
You have to speak up because we're having issues with the mic.
This is an excerpt from one of my stories that's not finished, which is kind of ho-hum because none of my stories are finished. And it's about a story on a trip to Ecuador. It's called The Cosmic Raven of Enlightenment. The village was built around the edge of a large clearing where 24 or so of us sat on our individual banana leaves. Ricardo was wearing his usual tall, cheap, black rubber, anti-snake bite jungle boots, tan slacks, and a red and white Madras long sleeve shirt. He wore his short hair black. He wore his black hair short. He was such a gentle-faced, humble man, I wouldn't have guessed Ricardo was a shaman. After dinner, the people of the village had arranged 6-foot-long banana leaves in a large circle around an altar of flowers, like numbers around a huge clock, and we were instructed to pick one to rest on for the evening. My wife, Maggie, and I chose banana leaves that were next to each other, and our friend Roseanne settled in on the other side of me. If Ricardo was at 12 o'clock on the banana leaf clock, I was at 8:30. He had a 2-liter plastic soda bottle sitting in front of him. Next to it was a small white teacup. The plastic bottle looked like it was filled with mud, but it was ayahuasca. Ricardo poured and his helper offered a cup of ayahuasca to everyone around the circle. The liquid was viscous, grainy, and acrid. Then the candles were extinguished and Ricardo sang as we waited for the spirit to arrive. The night air was thick with the bosky smell of all the living and rotting going on in the jungle around us. La Purga is why ayahuasca will never be a recreational drug. After an hour or so, when the muddy liquid has gotten to your center, the cleansing begins. The circulation in my legs had quit, so I lay down and stretched out on my banana leaf. Vampire bats were flitting around between me and the stars when I heard people in the group encountering La Purga. Around the circle, close to 3 o'clock position, someone farted. And someone near 10 o'clock farted. 5:30 farted. 1 o'clock farted a long, skinny, whistling one. I didn't think I should be listening to farts on my spiritual quest. So I sat up and tried to think nothing. But almost everyone was farting. Every time 3 o'clock farted, it sounded like a tugboat. 6 o'clock always had that squealer. And 5:30 always tooted. It was then that I understood that people's farts were just as distinctive as their voices, and I thought it hilarious that all the butthole spirits had convened around the circle. I laid back down, thanked the spirits that my farts were the silent kind, and tried to think nothing. Someone by the edge of the forest made a couple of those grunts your stomach tests you with before it decides it's going to vomit. She was encountering the second stage of La Purga. Behind me, a man let out a loud belch, mumbled, "Oh no," and vomited with gusto. I'm not going to describe the full-scale diarrhea attacks, but that's what came next. With La Purga in full control, sickened silhouettes staggered in and out of the circle, squirting from both ends into whatever jungle bushes were near. It was like the beginning of some horrible epidemic. I tried to think nothing. Maybe 1, maybe 2 hours later, La Purga had cleansed us and people were settled down on the banana leaves again. No man-made light came from the land around us, and there were so many stars, it was like heaven having a party. A certain group of stars began to move together and grow brighter still. They formed a happy face. It was smiling at me. Suddenly it zoomed down so close I might have been able to reach out and touch it. The inside points of its eyes went up, A rolling stone tongue stuck out of the side of its moronic smile, and it made a noise, long and reverberating. It felt like someone was tickling me. Then it disappeared. I sat up, shook my head, and looked around. Ricardo was singing softly. A wave came up from my stomach. Just behind it, a bubble of air burped up, and I croaked like a frog. Another pre-vomit wave started up. I laid back down thinking, fuck you, happy face. Then I felt horrible because that seemed way too angry for a seeker of enlightenment. I closed my eyes and tried to think nothing. Suddenly a warm gust blew past my nose. I opened my eyes and a huge blackness was blackening out the stars. It was moving in a flapping sort of way. At first, like a cosmic-sized raven flying over, then like a cosmic amoeba blotting out everything except for a thin, undulating rim around the horizon where I could still see the stars, the silhouettes of palm trees, and the thatched huts. Holy enlightenment, this must be it. From the center of the blackness above came a thunder, deep rumble. From above that, a muffled voice, a woman's voice. Maggie? My first thought was that the spirit of enlightenment had mistaken me for my wife. Second thought was, holy cow, the spirit of enlightenment is female. I was peering as hard as I knew how, straight up when the edge of the darkness took one long flap and uncovered the stars all the way to the center of the sky. Then something hit my nose. Felt like cloth. Then straight above me, a thunderous grumbling growl immediately followed by the unmistakable sound of a big juicy fart exploding in the blackness above me. Every cell of my brain screamed, move it, move it, move it. And with a response that was as involuntary as it was quick, I rolled to the side. Then the voice from above again, Maggie, would you help me to the bushes? Then I realized that I had rolled onto Roseanne's leaf and she wasn't there. As a matter of fact, that was Roseanne's voice above me. With a shift of thought that made my brain clank, I realized what had happened. Roseanne had gotten up and almost stepped on my head as she moved toward my wife, and I'd been looking for enlightenment up a woman's dress.